Welcome back to Super Tuesday Recap. This is your host, Chris, and we have Deepam here. And we're reviewing Season 5, Episode 4 of The Flash, News Flash. Now, before we get into this, I just want to go ahead and throw this out there right now and ask. I have to ask Deepam a question. Deepam,
Yes, sir.
when did you acquire your superpowers?
I don't like to talk about my origins. Everyone thinks I'm lying. I was bitten by a radioactive spider. But I'm just here to let you know we continue using them for good, not evil.
Deepam was probably the first person to notice that something was going on with Jesse L. Martin in Episode 1 or 2. One of those two.
Well,
There's
they
one.
gave him a lounge.
Yeah. And it comes up the day that it was revealed that he did suffer an injury. He was going to be taking a little hiatus from the show to recover for medical reasons to recover. Yeah, you called it, and it's right after we brought it up again last episode, and shortly after that, people in line started bringing it up, and they were asked about it this week, and actually, I guess asked about it yesterday, and it came up, and I'm like, holy shit! Once again, we're ahead of the curve. So
I don't know. We should put the rest of this podcast behind the paywall.
I'm just saying, people are starting to take our stuff, man.
I'll continue to be a trendsetter because invoices shall be sent. Please believe it.
I know we really. I think Shannon brought it up. We do need to start sending out invoices because it's just like at this point, it's just getting out of hand, guys. It really is getting out of hand. Yeah, but again, wishing him a speedy recovery on this. Let me see exactly what they said. He suffered a back injury. So luckily it wasn't a stroke, or it doesn't sound like it was anything. Not saying it's not serious, because again, if anybody's ever had an issue with their back, to say that a back injury is not serious, it can literally
It's like when they say minor surgery. It's only minor if it's not you getting cut.
Right. Yeah, anytime they cut you open, you have to put you under. Yeah, they're serious. So they're wishing him a full and speedy recovery and look forward to his return. They don't have an exact time, but they will be addressed at some point, which again, it's fine. And again, I hope Jesse L. Martin does get a speedy recovery. And again, I'm hoping that Deepam continues to use his powers for good, because if he ever becomes a supervillain, we're all in trouble. So
I'm not saying I write the headlines before they happen, but I am saying maybe, just maybe, I'm inspired by this episode.
I mean, I'm just saying it was kind of it did kind of it is kind of odd how you're able to do this and kind of almost write the headline before it happens, and that's almost kind of what happens in this episode. Which, gotta say, this little twist they threw in about how, like, we brought this up. There's another thing that we had kind of mentioned before in early episodes about whether the villains and what we're seeing now is tied to DeVoe having the destroying the almost crashing the Star Lab satellites, and that being filled with dark matter and during the Enlightenment, and we see that absolutely it is tied to that. But an extra twist to it is that now this dark matter is able to actually infect objects. So now you don't just have meta humans, you have meta objects, and now you put those meta objects in the hands of regular people, and just like you see in this episode with Spencer, you see how fucked up that can be. And you've now kind of seeded your world with not meta humans, but more villains that can do meta things thanks to objects that have powers. And now the world got scarier.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
now it can. First, it could be anyone who had these powers, of course, but now it's, if you've got something that's empowered, it can be taken from you.
Right.
It creates a different kind of bullseye, because while metahumans were to be feared, this is someone whose power can be taken and be coveted.
Mm-hmm. Maybe even, experimented on. It can be duplicated. It can be turned into
right.
There's now like an endless possibilities with this. And like I said, to me, that was like, whoa, that's a big thing. Meta tech. what can we do with that? Okay, I'm intrigued. Like this again. You have when they tested Spencer to find out that she didn't have meta powers, but it's her phone instead. It's like, wait a minute, this just changes everything. So I'm really intrigued by that, and so let's jump into this because again, this is something we just kind of talked about with Legend of Tomorrow, and it's something that we've brought up the last several seasons. We haven't done it that much this season because it seems like they really have picked up on this. And we're not reviewing Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now because it doesn't come back until next summer.
Right.
But we used to always bring up this like, hey, the problem with the CW show and the Arrowverse shows is, and when we're also at the same time we're watching Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. just handles its cast so much better because they know that they can break out into these little pockets, little groups, and shoot scenes, and those scenes just be just as good as the main scenes, if you will, the main storyline, to the point that on Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., sometimes you don't even have like a main quote unquote storyline or main characters because everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And obviously, when you have a show like The Flash, I mean, Barry is going to be obviously the focal point. Iris, his wife, and that the immediate Flash family become the issue. But what do you do with these other characters that have been here for so long? And what we've seen so far, and this is what, episode 4, I believe you said?
Yes.
Yeah, episode 4. What we've seen so far in episode 4 is they've kind of taken a little bit of that Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. approach, which is let's split out into interesting little pairs, or groups, and see how these things work. So we for a while there, we've been seeing, because look, this is a long setup for me to say, the Ralph Hive is here, and it's here to stay.
It's Ralph Island, bitches. We were all alone last year. Now the island's getting awfully fucking crowded.
I'm just, look, guys, Ralph's great. Because they paired him off, like when you paired him off with, so far they've done a great job of, and I think it was a much better job than they did last season. They paired Ralph off with Cisco, it's great. They paired him off with Caitlin, great. Paired him off with Ralph, Cisco, and Caitlin, and great. But then we've gotten a really good one this episode, which I think might have been the best we've seen of Ralph ever. And that's pairing him up with Sherlock Wells. And seeing Ralph actually be a detective and break this stuff down. When you have Wells kind of going through, oh, we need this, we need to do this. And Ralph is just like, well, actually, the simplest thing we need to do is figure out why he wears his mask.
Even you can watch Ralph just like figure out like, this motherfucker's just writing down what everyone else is saying.
Right, exactly. He's like, you're being full of shit. And
you're just writing things I could write things down.
Mm-hmm. And then you have Ralph go out there and be a detective to the point that, I mean, he doesn't. The characters don't know this, but he actually did track down a cicada.
Yo, he found Cicada.
He did. He did it.
Ralph solved everything.
Right. Ralph solved everything. And I was so worried. Not worried in the sense of like a writing or like a show member, but like because I become so invested in Ralph, I really thought Wells was going to steal his shine. I thought Wells was going to take the footwork that Ralph put in. And I'm like, oh, this Ralph over here doing the real detective work. You get this fake ass detective over here going to take his work. And when Wells came out and was like, no, I owe this all to Ralph because this is his idea. This is his plan. He pursued this and he thought that we should track this. And he was right. And I was like, you know what? Buddy cop, Sherlock Wells and Ralph. Let's go. Ralph Hive is here to stay. I'm down with it. It's fucking amazing.
He also went a long way just in that interaction of making Ralph look super competent.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was the thing, I think, and I got it from, I get it from last season, right? Because the Ralph from last season was at his wit's end. He was no longer a detective. He was a private eye. He was a joke because he was supposed to be a joke, right? And last season was his rough start to kind of getting back into the good graces and being a hero. They're like, okay, maybe we made him too unlikable, and I think that's what they did. I think they went too far and they made Ralph too unlikable, particularly when you had the other things going on with with Wally and things like that. Like it just you didn't do the character any favors. But like you said, there was always potential there. in this season, they're like, all right, what if we let the character speak for itself? What if we let the character do what we claim? Instead of telling you that Ralph is a good detective, instead of telling you that Ralph was actually a good cop, let's show you that Ralph actually was a good detective. You know, because last season they kept telling us, like, oh, no, Ralph is a good detective. He's a good PI. That's why, you know, he can solve all this stuff. And he really wasn't, though. He was a fuck up. This season, you're seeing, like, oh, no, he actually knows what the fuck he's doing completely. And I even like the idea that when they show up at the plant, the foreman or the guy who was there was kind of talking about his meme. Oh, elongated man, yeah, your meme. Oh, yeah, you're a joke. And you can see that, you know, Ralph is trying so hard to get past, to not be a joke, right? He wants to be respected for being a hero, but also being a detective, and basically be like, I'm no longer a joke. I'm really seriously, and I'm really serious. And it's so meta for the character, because that's how so many of the audience saw him too. It's like, he's a joke. He's not serious. He's not good at his job. And here we're seeing him like, no, he's fucking good. He's not even good. He's fucking great. Like Ralph has now in 4 episodes, Ralph has fixed Cisco. He's helped Caitlin with her father, and now he's helped solve the crime of the issue of Cicada. He's done that in 4 episodes. Ralph's the greatest detective of all time. He's like, move over, bro.
Batman.
I'm just saying, Ralph's the world's greatest detective, Ralph Dibny. I'm just throwing it out there, just saying it. Like I said, you know what? I am not like Deepom. I believe the ports to Ralph Island are open. All are welcomed.
All full. No more immigration. All full.
We'll take your caravan of Ralph Island.
Build that wall.
We will take the caravan of Ralph Hive. We will do that.
Nothing. You don't speak for this island.
But no, like I said,
you had property on here last year, but you didn't live here. Some of us lived here. I stayed through the hard time.
I had a summer home.
You visited?
I
You
visited.
put the money in. I'll give you this. You were invested, but you didn't live here. That's all right though. Hey, your property's still good. Your money still spends. Your taxes went up some. Sorry, part-time resident, but
yeah, no. Like I said, I'm sorry. Like, don't. And again, to people, it's like, don't feel bad if you're like all of a sudden you're liking Rob, because no, be perfectly honest, they are writing him better. You know, they are doing a much better job, and I think that they listen to the complaints. And again, this is something that we've talked about with Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I think, I don't know what happened, in the off season, but I really feel like for all the shows, they listened to what some of the complaints were, and they've stepped up, and they made those adjustments and changes, and it's working. It's working really well. Like, we're getting to the point where, not just with this, but let's go into the main story with Iris, Nora, and Barry. We find out why Nora's kind of upset at, not even kind of, why she doesn't really fuck with Iris.
And it makes sense. But guess what? So we were reviewing this immediately after recording the Legends of Tomorrow podcast. And if certain things have to come to be in the future regarding vigilantes and the use of powers in public, then Iris chipping her daughter becomes not only defensible, but quite acceptable.
You know what? I didn't even think of it that way. I didn't even, until you just said it, I didn't even think of that. But you're right. If in the future, if she's coming from, if she's coming from the future where, like you said, heroes and vigilantes are illegal, and you have to be careful, and you got to, maybe you do chip your daughter so then inhibit her powers, because the last thing you want is to fall on the wrong side of the law.
Or worse yet, have her not know she has her powers and use them by accident, and not because Barry's gone. There's nowhere to train her.
And that was the thing that was my reason for why I thought Iris did it, because it's like Iris just lost the love of her life. She lost Barry Allen. Why would she also want to lose her daughter? She watched, because again, at this point, you got to think about it, in the future, Iris has now watched all the things that Barry has been through. She's watched him, have to deal with the struggle of his mother dying, and Zoom and Thawne and Savitar and all these things. She's watched this man. She's watched him having powers torture the man she loves.
Right.
And then, as far as she knows, he dies because the Flash disappears. Now, we know that the Flash, from what I believe, the Flash and Zoom disappearing, or the Flash disappearing in that crisis, might be him and Zoom going back in the time. I don't know.
No, it's not. It's not that going back.
You don't think it's that?
It has to be.
You think it's
because otherwise, because when that happens, when he goes back, he changes the timeline, starts an alternate timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So Barry presumably makes his way back to his own time after that.
True, you're right.
You can't change your own time and da-da-da.
Right, true.
But what happens there, I think, is going to be tied to what happens in this crossover.
You know what? You're
His
right.
Guys, like all the big crisis predictors are there.
True.
They use the C word on the newspaper. I think that Barry's vanishing is a part of a much larger event that would also lead, by the way, if you felt like the heroes brought about this crisis, that would give a good impetus to outlaw them.
True, very valid. So again, you have this happening. Of course, Iris would chip her dog.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, that's just what it is. Like it gets down to the idea of I don't want our child following in their dead parents' footsteps, going down the same path and having to live through the idea of seeing my daughter potentially die the same way that her father did. Because also, I mean, we mentioned that. We also forget the idea with the time when Barry gave himself up to the Speed Force, and they had to pull him back from that. It's just, I can see why, Iris would do that. And then the flip side of that is Nora has every right to be pissed at Iris for that. Because you chipped your daughter against her will, didn't give her a choice in it, then didn't tell her. And the key thing that stood out to me, what she said was, I didn't even find out from you. I found out from somebody else. So now my question is, who the fuck told Nora?
Right. Who pushed Nora into going back?
Because like you said, this goes back to what Wells brought up to her last week in the last week's episode. Yeah, Sherlock. what he brought up to her last week was just like, basically, who brought you here? Who gave you the idea to come back at this time?
This is your idea, right?
Yeah. Why this moment? Why reveal yourself at that point, at that moment? Why do it? So, yeah, like all that stuff kind of got me spinning in my head like, wow, this is actually, it's very, very compelling now because, you explain now at this point why Nora doesn't fuck with Iris. You see why Iris is upset. And so, little sidebar here. Shout out to Barry Allen this episode. And I know you celebrate, this weekend is your anniversary. First year anniversary. 1 year. So I know you appreciate this. I know you appreciate husband Barry Allen pulling the hat trick in this episode and bagging his wife 3 times in one episode, even though she was dead fucking wrong.
Okay, I'm not you and I. No, I'm not gonna say. I will have to go through this. Something about Iris was wrong, but I'll say this: when Barry was like, when she said, "Kill mom," I thought Barry would say some stupid, simple shit like she would never do that. I'm like, no, don't do that, Barry. If she did it, she agrees. Like, my nigga Barry, look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. Just impressive. It warmed my heart. It really did. I was like, this is the show I came to watch.
So there was that. Then there was the beginning of the episode where Iris can't cook for shit. But Barry?
Okay, so I'm not going to... all right, so remind me to tell you the full story after the podcast. Barry was 100% right.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
But Iris wasn't wrong. She never claimed they were good. He said they were good. Once she said they were bad, you saw him relax. Because it's not his job to tell her if they're good or not. It's his job to back her play.
Yo, he does it this entire episode, and I'm like,
they've skipped right past the foibles of Barry figuring out how to be married. It happens when you marry your fucking sister. It must be easier to mitigate arguments. He's been doing it since you were 8 years old. That's his sister. No one cares about this movie.
Yo, I'm just saying.
Weird, Chris.
Yo, it's just like. Yo, the whole entire thing, yo, it was fucking hilarious. Barry's like, oh no, no, like that's good. Like Barry's like, what do we have here? This is.
I'm gonna make you a banana.
Oh, yo, you're gonna make me a banana? Hey, yo, he said it on his breath. He caught himself. He was like, you're gonna make me a banana? You know what? Okay, babe.
Okay. Barry swallowing shit in the marriage has been very, very refreshing. Yo, what was it earlier in the season when he was like, when she messed up the Back to the Future and Barry had to fight himself from correcting?
Right, yo, I'm telling you, man. Yo, Married Barry is actually, yo, he's A+.
This is my Barry.
Yo, yo, Barry is doing. You're doing amazing, sweetie. You're doing amazing.
Certain things are universal. Superpowers be damned.
Yo, happy wife, happy life, yo.
Yo, Barry can just run away if she gets mad. He has to come back.
Right, at some point he's got to come home.
Back.
At some point, like
I'm running to China. Cool. See you in 5 minutes. He has to be back. And she knows he's fast. Like, he can't be like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, no.
So another thing too is like, because every now and then I think he did. I mean, obviously he doesn't do it because of this, but I'm looking at certain things and I'm like, because he does fuck up once, right? When Iris is like, wait, you looking at Nora's like, wait, you got a phone? Who got your phone? It's like, Dad got it to me, and you can see Barry going like, fuck, I didn't. Because it's so weird, right? Because they have an adult daughter that's not right. That they haven't really had yet. And so, like, Barry is doing things for his daughter, and you can see Iris basically gives him a look of, you got our daughter a phone and talk to me first? And you're like, and Barry's just like, oh, fuck, I fucked up. These you know what, babe, you know what? You made the hell out of that banana.
At the very least, I don't care if she's grown or not, that's an extra bill. Like, you don't need to worry about, like, yeah, if she was like a child, yes, you say you can't give her a phone without having a conversation. That makes sense.
Yo, we just sold Star Lab stock. Do you have phone money?
To pay a fake detective.
From another dimension.
Let's be really real. We sold some of the stock to pay a fake detective. Barry, you're not in charge of the money anymore, are you, buddy?
Yo, she tried to make little lightning bolts. And Barry was like, it's a little dark.
You're doing fine.
Yo, I'm sorry. I have never been more proud of Barry Allen than this episode when he was handling this stuff with Iris, particularly the breakfast, because Iris can't cook for shit. Like she was jamming though. She was jamming and not like in fucking everything up. And I love that they really have a teenager, like Nora basically acts like a teenager that just is too annoyed. And so she says in her breath, like, it's nice to know that you make lumpy pancakes in every timeline, in every time period. I'm like, see, that's a low blow. That's a low blow. That's just.
You're lucky you got pancakes, and great.
Right. Do you have pancake money? He's like, you got.
You enjoying my phone?
Right. You gotta.
You enjoying my phone?
Yeah.
You want to keep enjoying my phone? Yeah, man.
I tell you what, you go ahead and make your pancakes with your pancake batter with your money. Oh, that's right. You don't have any. Okay.
You're not wrong.
Okay. But it's just
she's his wife.
Hmm.
You know why she's not wrong? Because that's his wife.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Like, and but that's the funny part, the breakfast part. But going back to the end part where he really backs her play, like, that was, again, it just shows you the maturity of Barry Allen, and that he trusts and I think that's the other thing too. It's like we joke about this and we see about him and that's his wife and things like that, but it also just shows the level of comfort and trust that Barry has for Iris. It's like, obviously, if she did it, she had a good reason for, and when Iris is trying to tell Nora, it's like, well, if I did it, I must have had a good reason for it. And from Nora's point of view, it's like, no, you didn't. You don't know what the reason that you gave me at that time period was, which Nora's right on that one. Like, from Nora's point of view, she's right. But when Barry walking in that situation, he's like, well, I know Iris. I know she loves me, and I know she would love her. I love her child, and she made the decision, having seen her in action. Because that's the other thing too, right? Everybody in this conversation doesn't have all the pieces, right? So from Nora's point of view, all she sees is that her mother had an inhibitor chip put in her and didn't give her the choice to understand that she had powers. From Iris's point of view and from Barry's point of view, it's like Barry's looking at like, I've been through hell and back with this woman, and I know if she made a decision that I know what she would do for her family. I know the kind of sacrifice.
Play your parents against each other, and they're like, "Don't you get it, idiots?
Right?
You guys showed up. We chose each other.
Right?
Like, you can't split up the team. I'm sorry.
You think that you think darkness is your ally?
Yo, man, you're here by chance. We're here by choice." Nah, man.
I was born in it.
I really enjoyed them playing out that whole argument, though, because while the contrivance of time travel may make some people roll their eyes, the way they rooted everyone's point in actual human and kind of resonant emotions made the argument land. And you're right. There's no one in the world that Barry Allen trusts or loves more than his wife. Yeah. And she's earned that, and he's earned that with her. And it's and Nora's reaction is how a child thinks. And but no, you've got to believe me, I'm right. Like, no, man, we love you. Sometimes we got to know what's best. And the other thing is, she's had her power 6 months. That's a huge wrinkle.
Well, then it also goes back and explains something that we brought up before. It's like, why did nobody train? Well, why doesn't Nora know how to do some of these things? Why did no one train Nora? Like, what's going on? And it's like, oh, that's why. Because it's not that everybody else is dead. It's that Iris didn't tell her. It's that Iris didn't tell her that she had powers and was keeping her away from her. So Nora didn't have anybody to go to learn this stuff. But then brings back the bigger thing that we kind of talked about before is who sent Nora back this time period. Who was the one that did this? Who was the one that kicked this whole thing in motion? And what were their intentions? Were their intentions good? Were their intentions bad? Who knows? So
right.
I said again, right now we're 4 episodes in, and we've gotten a lot of answers up front that I think would have taken us to mid-season break to get last season, maybe even beyond that. We've gotten a lot of the smaller, I hate to say small because some of these things are actually kind of big. We've gotten some of these smaller issues, answered, but they just led to bigger questions. And it's not like a bigger question, like a frustrating question. It's like an intriguing question, like, okay, so I can see why Iris did that. It now explains why, even though she's fast and she can run, XS doesn't know anything and can't do anything, can't do any of these things. That explains why she's completely untrained. Which then brings the idea back of whoever sent her back, were they good or bad? Because if they were, what's a good way to send somebody? Oh, no, that would. I'm not going to say that it could be. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of interesting things that could happen. And can be brought back. And now that the timeline is completely messed up, what's going on? I'm like I said, this has been. I'm way more engaged than I was last season and already, and this is great. Let's see. Barry sucking that softball was great. Like Barry without his powers, you didn't realize how unathletic he is, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah. No, he is a CSI nerd.
Yeah, you're just like, oh god, you're
Full stop.
really terrible. Like, and it's like hearing like at one point when he falls down and can't, someone's like, "Get it together, Alan." And you're just like, "Oh yeah, he's not good at this at all." So, let me see. Oh, so I mentioned this. We were talking about this on Legend, and we've been bringing this up, I think, throughout all the shows this season, just about how they integrate, diversity and inclusion like you don't see it. The suggestion that Spencer was kind of flirting with Nora, and Nora was kind of like flirting back, and the idea that maybe Nora's at the very least bi. Like, who would even like? That's great.
I love Barry. What is happening?
Right, and a mother's like, she's flirting with my daughter. Like, no, we're ending this right now. Young lady, get in the car.
This is basically what happened.
And that's the funny thing is watching. Like, it's so weird. Like watching Barry and Iris be parents, even though they're like not parents. So like when she shows up and she's talking to Nora, like. And they're like trying to figure out, like, yeah, how do you know each other? Yeah, yeah. Don't you want to check your watch? Oh yeah, you should check my watch. It's like it's like, and like you said, I love the fact that Barry didn't like this. This is one of the ones that Barry did fail at. He didn't understand what was going on, and Iris sees it right away. He's like, oh my god, no, they're flirting. She's flirting with her. No, we have work to do. This is amazing. This is great. We got to throw it out there. Papa Joe getting, even though we've already talked about Jesse L. Martin, and his back issues, but still got the Black Fatherhood moments in.
He got one lean on a door frame, which I thought was nice. They put him vertical finally, and then he was like half laying on a couch.
Right, but
I thought he was going to ask Nora to get the remote for him.
I mean, that's still going to happen, yes.
Oh yeah.
But the whole thing of like, hey, just come on in and don't worry about it, and we'll talk about why you're upset some other time, some other time later. And I'm just like, see, Papa Joe knows. Papa Joe knows. He knows what you need. Maybe even before you do. So, thought that was great. Them explaining how Cicada makes his noise and his respiratory issues.
Yep.
And going on with it. Like, again, just we're getting back to, and I think there's another thing that stood out to me that we got in season 1 and we kind of got away from it because, they were too heavily reliant on the satellites and using Cisco and the tech. And, we didn't even get Cisco this episode. They kind of just, and we didn't need them, but like by not having Cisco there, it required them to do like some hands-on work. It required them to get back to the things they did in season 1, which is, they did some basic science. They did, scientific work and experiments. And it wasn't just, well, I'm going to, tune this resonator to search for frequencies for this. It was actually something that actually required them to get out there and do something, or something as simple as, Wells asking, getting Caitlin to punch him in the sternum, which is hilarious. I know what you're doing here, and it worked. Again, like everybody working together here, and it feels good. It feels like the whole show's back.
It really does. It really does, because the strength, again, like we said the last 2 weeks, has been the relationships, and they've leaned on that, and they leaned on this talented cast, and even without Cisco this episode, to name her, we still had a great, kind of one and done with the villain of the week, but still adding to the larger mythos and continuing to make Cicada creepy. Because in case you have lost track of him since American Pie 2, Chris Klein still alive and on the CW.
Which is so. We'll just get back to Cicada in a minute, because let's say it now. It's like he got new power. He didn't have super strength before.
Right.
So now I'm even more intrigued by this character, because it's like, wait, are we now gaining superpowers? Like, and how like I'm very very intrigued by this, and it makes him even scarier now. So now you've taken this villain and now you've made him somebody that like he's whooped our hero's ass already.
Right.
When they meet him again, they might be like, well, we can take him now. It's like, and now he's super strong. And if this is gonna be something that happens where he can literally gains new power throughout the entire show, the entire season, that's gonna be really interesting. So, but yeah, like the show is clearly leaning on a heavy family tie here, but it still feels fresh. It still feels, I don't know. I really, I mean, I'm engaged with everybody. I like everybody on. There's nobody's. It doesn't feel like we're losing anybody along the way as something on. Like you said, even this week with, I wasn't sold on Sherlock Wells last week. This week I'm like, oh no, this is definitely working. And if you definitely pair him and Ralph together as the detective pairs, it works. And it kind of reminds me of what they're doing with Legends, where it's like Legends, you have John Constantine on to do magic. So usually when we have Wells on, Wells is paired with Cisco, and it's science. If we now took it so that, yeah, Cisco's still going to be involved, but if we now lean more heavily on being detective and problem solving and piecing a puzzle together, that's an aspect that we really haven't had on this show before, and I'm intrigued. That's going to get me going. I'm in for that, and that's something new. So I like the idea that they've kind of gone down this path, and we're trying new things. Like I'm all in for that shit. And I know what else I was going to mention is like, even with the villain of the week, they tie the villain of the week to Iris. Oh yeah, we worked at the paper together. She started her blog after mine, and having that connection there, so that now the villain of the week this week isn't just, even though she wasn't a meta and she was really just there to move like the main characters along and get that going. There's still a tie there. There's still a connection there at some point. So
and plus you get to play a little prescience with like kind of the rest of the CW shows, and including the fake news part.
Oh, absolutely. They've been doing. It's very, very clear the things that are going on with the season, and we won't make it too political, but going after this current administration. So, bravo. I love that. I will say there is one question I had, because I was very confused about this. When Nora and Bear were fighting, that whole thing where he kind of went backward, like how did that? What was going on with that?
I have no idea what that was.
Okay, because that was very weird to me. I was like, wait, did anybody else? And they never addressed it. So now I'm like, did something else, like, okay, I'm something to keep my eye on, because it was the one thing that just seemed out of place. But I feel like because it seemed out of place that it was on purpose. Right. So now I'm intrigued. And kind of, again, going back to what they did last season with the Enlightenment, they've now made the Enlightenment and what happened there directly tied to the metas we're seeing now and what's happening now with this season, and it works. So, which is a theme that we've seen at least with Legends and also with Arrow, which is directly tying into what happened at the end of each of those shows last seasons. So, correct. Yeah, perfect in there. Let's see. Going through
that's so helpful. You're right, because not to hold us back, but there's no need to do a lead up. There's no need to ramp up the action. You're already there. You're coming fresh off last season, so you're able to start kind of not do this establishing a threat thing. It's you're in the middle of it already.
And I gotta say, like, yeah, I think this show has taken a good page out of. We were saying take a good page out of Agent Shield. I'm gonna say they took a good page out of Legend of Tomorrow, because we just praised Legend of Tomorrow for their writing, and we praise Legend of Tomorrow for what I'm just about to say here is that these first 4 episodes have had a villain of the week and have had usually these shows, the Flash has this, right? You have a villain of the week, and it loosely ties everything together. Here, we have some direct ties in. And even when you're even if it doesn't have a direct ties to the villain, there are major issues that are being absolved or at least being brought to the forefront that everyone has questions about. So in this episode, if you take out, the connection to Cicada, you have it brings the Iris and Nora confrontation to a head, where we get the final realization about why Nora has been so standoffish from Iris. And that's 4 episodes in, so now we're not going to be wasting a lot of time trying to figure out what that is. We've gotten it out of the way 4 episodes in. And now we can move forward with different storylines, figuring out like how they come to some resolution to that. Because, surprise, they're gonna have some kind of resolution to that. So I don't know. Like I said, I really love the way the writing's going this season, the way the writing room is going. And the truth of the matter is, they're also making episodes entertaining. Like this has been 4 entertaining episodes in a row. I'm
100%.
I'm down for that. I love that. Even like when Barry got sent to Las Vegas and left Nora there to put the fire out, Iris talking Nora into how to doing this, and then Nora doing it, you cheered. You were happy for her. It's like she got a win without her father. She was able to do it herself, and her mother talked her through it. So, like I said, I'm down for that. Anything else you want to say about this episode?
Nope. No, just another great episode from this season. I think they're really kind of righted the ship here, and so far so good for the Flash. And Disney Island will allow a few more entrants, but please be careful.
Ralph Hive. We are in there. It's Ralph Hive. We down. Like you said, we're accepting a few new members. So, send your dues to you can just PayPal it to us. So you can PayPal me at chris@mtrnetwork.net, and we'll take that in there and we'll do all that stuff. So dues are $50 a year. So for the Ralph Hive. So we gotta get shirts now. So actually, yeah, I'm gonna get a shirt. I'm gonna get a shirt that says Ralph Hive on it.
There we go.
We're gonna put it on TeePublic. Go to TeePublic.
A T-Palm shirt too, maybe.
Yes, we will.
And also blame Chris finally.
Why is it gonna be blaming me? Actually, technically,
I've turned into a figure of trust.
Oh, God damn it!
You're a dire hero. You long to see yourself become immortalized in trusted T-shirt form.
The fall is gonna be so heavy.
It will.
The fall is gonna be so bad.
It's gonna be amazing.
TeePublic is running a sale, 30% off during the holiday season. So go to tpublic.com/stores/MTR-network. Check out our store on MTR Network. Get any of the shirts you want to see there. Again, you can get a free month of Stitcher Premium. No ads. You can get the premium shows. Put the code in Tuesday, and you will get a free month of Stitcher Premium. And yeah, make sure you subscribe to Super Tuesday Recap, guys. Again, we're going to have the mailbag coming out. We're going to have the Gifted. Soon there will be Star Trek Discovery, and they're only going to be on the Super Tuesday Recap feed. When you're searching for the shows, put Super Tuesday Recap in there. Subscribe. Subscribe to the feed that has the Super Tuesday Recap logo on it. Not just the individual episodes. Go do that right now. Yeah, there you guys have it.
Also check me out on the Transmissions podcast. I was in Alt Mode episode 101. It's going live on Friday the 2nd, talking Transformers Unicron 5 and other Transformers related goodness.
There you guys have it. So again, folks, thank you guys very much for listening, and until next time, we are out of here. Peace.